The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Jake Morrison was drinking coffee on the bridge of his ship, the Valiant, when the communications officer started shouting. He nearly dropped his cup when he saw what appeared on the screen. 7 massive alien ships hung in space just beyond Earth's moon. Each one was bigger than anything humans had ever built. They looked like floating cities made of dark metal and glowing lights. The lead ship sent a message, and it was not friendly. The alien who appeared on screen called himself High Adjudicator Vexnor. He looked like a giant lizard standing upright with scales that shimmered green and gold. His voice came through the translator as cold and commanding. "Humans of Earth," Vexnor said, "the Galactic Council has observed your species. You have entered space without permission. You have colonized worlds without authorization. This cannot continue. The Council demands your immediate submission. You will pay yearly tribute of resources, technology, and workers. You will accept Council oversight of all your activities. You have 48 of your hours to agree. If you refuse, your species will be eliminated." The transmission ended. Jake stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. Around him, his crew sat in shocked silence. Amy Walsh, his communications officer, was only 26 years old. Her hand shook as she tried to process what they had just heard. "Captain," she whispered. "They can't really mean that, can they? They can't just show up and demand we surrender." Jake looked out at the alien warships. Each one had weapons that could probably destroy a city in seconds. There were only 7 of them, but Earth's entire defense fleet numbered maybe 40 ships, and most were much smaller than these monsters. "I think they're very serious," Jake said quietly. He opened a channel to Earth Command. "This is Captain Morrison of the Valiant. I'm guessing everyone just saw that message. Awaiting orders, down on Earth chaos had erupted. President Karen Mitchell sat in the Emergency Command Center deep under the Rocky Mountains. Around her, military officers and government officials argued loudly. Some wanted to fight immediately. Others said fighting would be suicide. "We need more information," said Admiral Frank Hughes, the head of Earth's Space Forces. "We don't know anything about these aliens. How powerful are they really? Are there more ships coming? Can we even hurt them if we try? Does it matter?" Someone shouted back. "They just threatened to wipe us out. We can't let them push us around like this." President Mitchell raised her hand for silence. "We have 48 hours. Let's use them wisely. I want every scientist, every military analyst, everyone working on this. Find out everything you can about those ships in the so-called Galactic Council, and someone get me a direct line to every colony we have. If this goes bad, I want our people in space to know what's happening." On Mars Colony, Emma Morrison received a text from her husband, Jake. It was short. "Things might get rough up here. I love you and the kids. Stay safe." Emma looked at their 2 children playing in the red Martian soil outside the Habitat Dome. They had been born here under the alien sky. They had never even seen Earth except in pictures. What kind of future would they have now? Back on the moon, 2 scientists named Peter Collins and Nicole Sanders worked frantically in their lab. They had been studying the alien ships with every sensor they had. The results were both terrifying and interesting. "Their shields are incredibly strong," Peter said, pointing at his computer screen. "Our missiles probably won't even scratch them. But look at this. They're not moving. They're just sitting there in a simple formation. It's like they don't expect any resistance at all." Nicole leaned closer. "You think they're overconfident? I think they've never had anyone fight back before. Look at their weapons. They're all designed for massive firepower, not precision. These ships are built to scare enemies into surrendering, not for actual combat. That doesn't mean we can beat them," Nicole pointed out. "No," Peter agreed, "but it means they might not be unbeatable." They sent their findings to Earth Command immediately. It wasn't much, but it was something. A tiny spark of hope in a very dark situation. The 48 hours crawled by. In government buildings across Earth, leaders debated. Some argued that submission was the only logical choice. The aliens controlled thousands of worlds, they said. Humans only had 20 small colonies. Fighting would accomplish nothing except getting everyone killed. Others disagreed violently. Humanity had spent thousands of years fighting for freedom, they argued. They had survived wars, plagues, and disasters. They had reached the stars through determination and courage. Giving up now would betray everything humans had ever stood for. President Mitchell listened to all of it. She barely slept during those 2 days. She thought about her responsibility to 8 billion people on Earth and millions more in the colonies. She thought about what kind of life people would have under alien control. She thought about whether she had the right to risk extinction to preserve freedom. On the Valiant, Jake received a personal message from Emma. "Whatever you decide up there," she wrote, "the kids and I support you. We didn't come to Mars to live as slaves. Do what you think is right." Jake closed his eyes and felt tears trying to form. His children deserved to grow up free. Every human child deserved that. But what if his choice got them all killed instead? The deadline approached. President Mitchell stood before the cameras, knowing the whole human race was watching. The alien ships waited silently in space, confident that the humans would do what every other species had done: surrender. But President Mitchell had made her decision. She had talked to military leaders, scientists, and ordinary citizens. She had read the history books and thought about what made humanity special. Now she would give the answer. "People of Earth and all human colonies," she began, her voice steady despite her fear. "The Galactic Council has demanded our submission. They want us to become their servants. They want to control our lives, our freedom, our future." She paused and took a breath. "Our answer is no." The words hung in the air for a moment. Then she continued. "We did not come to the stars to bow to tyrants. We will not pay tribute to bullies. We reject the Council's authority. If they want Earth, they will have to take it from us, and we will make them pay for every inch." Across human space, people reacted in different ways. Some cheered, some cried, some prayed. But everyone understood what this meant. War was coming and humanity might not survive it. On the alien command ship, Vexnor received the human response. For a moment he seemed surprised. Then his face twisted into something like a smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. "So the primitives choose death," he said. "Very well. All ships prepare to attack. We will make this quick." The 7 warships began to move forward, weapons charging with deadly energy. Against them, humanity's small fleet scrambled to defensive positions. The odds were terrible, but humans had faced terrible odds before. Jake Morrison strapped himself into his command chair and gave the order. "All hands to battle stations. Launch all fighters. This is it, people. Let's show these aliens what humans are made of." The battle for Earth survival was about to begin. The first shots of the war came from the alien ships. Bright beams of energy cut through space, targeting Earth's orbital defense platforms. 3 platforms exploded before they could even return fire. Hundreds of people died in those first seconds, vaporized instantly. Jake Morrison watched the destruction from the Valiant's bridge and felt his stomach twist. But there was no time for grief. "All ships break formation and scatter," he ordered. "Don't give them easy targets. Fighter wings. Get in close where their big guns can't track you." The Earth defense fleet split apart like startled fish. It went against normal military tactics, but Jake knew they couldn't fight the aliens in a straight battle. They had to be unpredictable, annoying, and fast. They had to be like mosquitoes biting a bear. Hundreds of small fighter craft launched from the human ships. The pilots were a mix of military veterans and civilians who had volunteered just days ago. Many had never been in combat before. They flew toward the massive alien warships with a combination of courage and terror. Greg Sullivan was one of those pilots. He had been a mining ship pilot in the asteroid belt before the war started. Now he sat in a fighter cockpit, sweating despite the cool air, watching his targeting computer light up with warnings. There were so many alien weapons shooting at him that his computer couldn't count them all. "Just get close," he muttered to himself. "Get close and aim for something important." He dodged left as a plasma bolt streaked past, close enough that his shields flared and sparked. Another pilot nearby wasn't so lucky. Her fighter vanished in a ball of fire, and Greg forced himself not to think about it. He locked his missiles onto an antenna cluster on the alien ship's hull and fired. The missiles hit, creating a satisfying explosion. It didn't do much damage to the huge ship, but it was something. All around the battle space, human fighters were doing the same thing. Dozens of small attacks, each one barely a scratch, but slowly adding up. On the alien command ship, Vexnor watched his tactical display with growing annoyance. The humans were supposed to form up and fight properly, so they could be destroyed efficiently. Instead, they were swarming everywhere like insects. His gunners couldn't shoot them all fast enough. "Status report," he demanded. "Minor damage to external sensors and communications arrays," his tactical officer replied. "Nothing serious. But these humans are more aggressive than expected. They're willing to die to get close." "Then let them die," Vexnor snarled. "All ships increase rate of fire. Destroy every human vessel you see." But even as the alien ships poured fire into space, the main human warships were moving into position. The Valiant and 30 other ships accelerated toward the alien line, firing everything they had. Nuclear missiles, particle beams, railguns that shot metal slugs at incredible speed. The human weapons were primitive compared to alien technology, but there were a lot of them. The alien ship's shields glowed and flickered under the assault. For the first time, Vexnor felt a tiny threat of concern. The shields were holding, but they were using more power than expected. These humans hit surprisingly hard for primitives. On the moon base, Peter Collins and Nicole Sanders watched the battle through their sensors. Nicole suddenly pointed at her screen. There, that ship, the third one. Its shields just fluctuated. They're redistributing power to cover weak spots. Peter immediately sent the information to the fleet. Target the third alien ship, rear section. Concentrate all fire there. 3 human destroyers changed course, focusing every weapon on the indicated spot. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then suddenly, part of the alien ship's shields collapsed. Human railgun rounds punched through the hull, tearing open the armor. The alien ship didn't explode, but it started spinning out of control. Atmosphere venting from the holes. Its weapons went silent. One of the 7 mighty warships had been crippled by the primitive humans. Vexnor stared at his display in disbelief. How? How did they penetrate our shields? They're analyzing our defensive patterns in real time, his tactical officer said with what might have been respect. They're not just fighting, they're studying us and adapting. Then we will show them true power, Vexnor said coldly. Prepare to target their homeworld. We will burn their cities to ash. The alien ships began to change position, their massive guns rotating to aim at Earth itself. Jake saw the movement and felt ice in his blood. They're going to bombard the planet. All ships intercept course now. But the human fleet was scattered and damaged. They couldn't reach the alien ships in time. Down on Earth, people saw the alien weapons beginning to glow with charging energy. This was it. The end. Then something impossible happened. 3 enormous ships appeared from behind the moon, moving fast. They weren't alien warships, but they weren't military vessels either. They were colony ships. Huge transports designed to carry thousands of people to distant star systems. Someone had strapped weapons all over them. This is Captain Lisa Andrews of the colony ship New Horizon, came a transmission. We were supposed to leave for Alpha Centauri next week. Change of plans. All civilian ships ramming speed. Jake's blood froze. Earth Command, stop them. Those are civilian ships, they'll be slaughtered. Negative, Valiant, Admiral Hughes replied, his voice heavy with grief. They're volunteers. Every person on those ships knows what they're doing. The colony ships accelerated to incredible speeds, pushing their engines far beyond safe limits. They weren't trying to survive. They were trying to buy time for the evacuation shuttles taking people off Earth. The alien warships opened fire, their weapons designed to destroy armored military vessels. The colony ships had no chance. The New Horizon exploded when it was still thousands of miles from its target. But 2 others got through the fire, slamming into alien ships with tremendous force. The impacts were catastrophic. 1 alien warship was cut nearly in half, breaking apart as explosions rippled through its interior. The colony ships and their 3,000 volunteers simply ceased to exist, vaporized by the collisions. On Earth, President Mitchell watched from the command center with tears streaming down her face. 3,000 people had just sacrificed themselves. Citizens who had been planning to start new lives on distant worlds had chosen to die saving their home planet. Around the world, billions of humans saw what happened. The message was clear. Humanity would not surrender, not now, not ever. The battle raged on for hours. More human ships were destroyed. More brave people died in the cold of space. But the aliens were hurting too. 2 of their 7 warships were completely destroyed. 2 more were badly damaged. The remaining 3 were still powerful, but they had learned respect for human courage. On the Valiant, Jake's crew worked frantically to keep their damaged ship fighting. The shields were failing. Half the weapons were offline. Life support was cutting out on several decks. But they kept firing, kept moving, kept fighting. Amy Walsh called out from her station. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet. They want to talk. Jake almost laughed. Now they want to talk? After all this? Should I respond? Jake thought about all the people who had died today. He thought about his wife and children on Mars. He thought about what this battle had cost humanity. Then he nodded. Put them through. Let's hear what they have to say. Vexnor's face appeared on screen. The alien commander looked different now. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something else. Caution, maybe. Or respect. Human commander. Vexnor said slowly. The council is reconsidering its position. We wish to discuss terms. Terms? Jake said coldly. You attacked us. You tried to kill us all. Now you want to discuss terms? Your species has fought with unexpected effectiveness. The council acknowledges this. Perhaps there is a way to resolve this conflict without further losses on both sides. Jake looked around his bridge at his exhausted, wounded crew. He thought of the colony ship volunteers who had given everything. He knew the decision wasn't his to make, but he also knew what his answer would be. You can talk to Earth Command, Jake said. But I'll tell you right now, we're not surrendering. We're not paying tribute. If you want peace, it will be peace between equals. Nothing less. Vexnor was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I will relay your position to the council. A temporary ceasefire will be observed while diplomatic channels are established. The transmission ended. Around the Valiant, the shooting slowly stopped. The alien ships pulled back. The human fleet held their positions, weapons still ready but not firing. The first battle was over. Humanity had survived, but the war was far from finished. The ceasefire held for 3 days, but it was not a peaceful silence. Earth's orbital space looked like a graveyard. Broken ships drifted everywhere, human and alien alike. Rescue crews worked around the clock, pulling survivors from damaged vessels. The count of dead climbed past 2 million, and it was still rising. Jake Morrison hadn't slept more than a few hours since the battle ended. His ship, the Valiant, was barely holding together. Engineers had patched the worst holes, but the vessel would need months in a shipyard to be truly spaceworthy again. If they even had months, the aliens could restart the attack at any moment. Captain, long-range sensors are picking up something, Amy Walsh said from her station. She sounded nervous. More ships incoming. A lot of them. Jake's heart sank. Reinforcements for the aliens, probably. The council was sending a real fleet to finish what they started. How many? 12 ships. But wait. Their signatures don't match the council vessels. These are something else. On Earth, Admiral Hughes was receiving the same information. President Mitchell stood beside him in the command center, her face gray with exhaustion. She had barely left this room in 3 days. More enemies? She asked quietly. Unknown, Hughes replied. But they're moving to position themselves between us and the remaining council ships. Whatever they are, they're not with the aliens who attacked us. The new ships were smaller than the council warships, but larger than human vessels. They looked different too, sleek and curved instead of angular. They arranged themselves in a defensive formation and then broadcast a message. This is Ambassador Lyra of the Free Worlds Coalition. We come in peace. We are here to prevent this conflict from becoming a genocide. Council forces, you will stand down immediately. In the alien command ship, Vexnor felt his blood run cold. The Free Worlds Coalition was a group of younger alien species who had refused council control. The council considered them rebels and troublemakers. They operated on the far edges of known space and generally avoided direct confrontation. Until now. You have no authority here, Vexnor transmitted back. This is a council matter. We have the authority of conscience, Lyra replied calmly. You came to destroy an entire species for refusing to be slaves. The whole galaxy is watching this. What you do here will be remembered forever. On Earth, President Mitchell made a quick decision. Open a channel to this coalition. Let's find out what they want. Lyra's face appeared on the screens. She looked almost human with blue-tinted skin and larger eyes. Her expression was kind but serious. President Mitchell, my species has been watching your situation. We know what it's like to face the Council's demands. We refused them too many years ago. And they let you live? Mitchell asked, surprised. They tried to destroy us just as they're trying to destroy you. But we survived, and we found others who had also survived. Together we formed the coalition. We are not as powerful as the Council, but we are strong enough that they cannot easily defeat us. Why are you helping us? Mitchell asked. What do you want in return? Lyra smiled slightly. We want what you want. A galaxy where species can choose their own path without being forced to submit. Your resistance to the Council matters. It shows others that they can be defied. As for payment, we ask only that you consider joining our coalition when this is over. Far away in the Council's capital world, the 7 ruling species were having an emergency meeting. They were watching what was happening at Earth through long-range sensors. The arrival of the Free Worlds Coalition had changed everything. "This is unacceptable," High Chancellor Zorvek said angrily. He was the oldest and most powerful council member. "We cannot allow this rebellion to spread." But Councillor Mirasol, the youngest member, disagreed. "Perhaps we should ask ourselves why species keep rebelling. The humans fought us to a standstill. Now the coalition has intervened. How many more wars will we fight to maintain control? Are you suggesting we surrender to primitives?" Another council member demanded. "I'm suggesting we negotiate before this turns into a war that destroys us all," Mirasol replied. "The humans proved they would rather die than submit. The coalition proved they will protect those who resist us. We can keep fighting or we can adapt." The debate went on for hours. Meanwhile, at Earth, a different kind of meeting was arranged. A neutral space station was quickly assembled from spare parts and modules. Representatives from all 3 sides would meet there: the Council, the Free Worlds Coalition, and humanity. President Mitchell traveled up to the station on a small shuttle. She brought Admiral Hughes, Ambassador Marcus White, and Dr. Nicole Sanders. As they approached, she could see the alien ships on all sides. One wrong move, one misunderstanding, and the shooting could start again. The station's interior was divided into 3 sections for the different species. The meeting room was designed to accommodate everyone despite their different body types. When Mitchell walked in, she saw Vexner already seated along with Councillor Mirasol, who had come from the council capital. Lyra was there too, representing the coalition. "Shall we begin?" Lyra asked, taking a seat at the triangular table. "I believe we all want to avoid further bloodshed. The council's position is clear," Vexner said stiffly. "The humans must accept council authority and pay reparations for the damage they caused to our ships." Mitchell felt anger flare up, but kept her voice level. "Reparations? You attacked us. We defended ourselves. By any reasonable standard, we are the victims." "You are primitives who don't understand galactic law," Vexner shot back. "The Council has maintained order in this galaxy for thousands of years. Your presence in space without our permission is itself a violation. A law we never agreed to," Admiral Hughes said firmly. "You don't get to make rules for beings who never consented to your authority. That's not law, that's tyranny." The argument went on for hours, then days. The Council insisted that humanity must submit in some form. Humans refused every proposal that involved giving up their freedom. The coalition tried to mediate, but the gap seemed too wide to bridge. During a break, Lyra met privately with President Mitchell in the human section of the station. "I want you to understand something important," the alien ambassador said. "What you did standing up to the Council, it's already changing things. Half the galaxy is watching and thinking maybe they can resist too." Mitchell rubbed her tired eyes. "We paid for that with 2 million lives. And we're barely holding our fleet together. If the Council comes back with their full military, we won't survive." "Which is exactly why you need allies," Lyra said. "The Free Worlds Coalition offers you formal membership. We have mutual defense treaties. If someone attacks you, they attack all of us. We also share technology and trade freely among ourselves." "What's the cost?" Mitchell asked carefully. "Only what you would give anyway. We don't demand tribute or control. We ask that you respect other species' rights and help defend coalition members if they're attacked. It's an alliance of equals." Mitchell thought about this. Joining the coalition meant protection, but also making enemies of anyone who opposed them. Then again, the Council was already their enemy. Back in the negotiations, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Nicole Sanders had been analyzing data about the Council's military. She discovered something important. "The Council is stretched thin," she explained to President Mitchell and the team. "They control thousands of worlds, but their actual military isn't that big. They rely on reputation and fear to keep species in line, but if several species rebelled at once, they couldn't stop them all." This information changed everything. When negotiations resumed, Mitchell presented a new proposal. "Here's what we offer. We will acknowledge that galactic civilization exists and agree to follow common laws, but only if those laws are negotiated fairly. We won't pay tribute. We won't accept Council control. We keep our complete freedom. In exchange, we'll share our discoveries and help defend against real threats." Vexner looked like he might explode. "You think you can dictate terms after we showed mercy by not destroying your planet?" "You didn't show mercy," Admiral Hughes said coldly. "You failed to beat us. There's a difference. Counselor Mirasol had been quiet, watching the humans carefully. Now she spoke up. Hi, Adjudicator, may I speak with you privately? They left the room. When they returned an hour later, Mirasol addressed everyone. The Council will accept a modified version of the human proposal. Humanity will be given provisional independence for 50 Earth years. During this time, you will have observer status in Council meetings. You will participate in scientific projects. You won't pay tribute, but you will help with collective defense based on your capabilities. And if we refuse this offer? Mitchell asked. Then the war continues and no one can promise who will win. Mirasol said honestly, but I urge you to think carefully. This proposal isn't surrender for anyone. It's recognizing that the galaxy is changing. Mitchell looked at her advisors. Hughes nodded slowly. Marcus White looked cautiously optimistic. Dr. Sanders showed her the numbers proving they couldn't win a long war. We need to discuss this with Earth's government, Mitchell said. Give us 24 hours. The vote on Earth was heated but clear. 68% voted to accept the Council's offer. Humanity would stay free, keep their independence, and have 50 years to. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy looked very different. News of humanity's survival had spread to thousands of worlds. The Council's reputation for being unbeatable had been shattered. Some species saw this as inspiration. Others saw it as a warning. Jake Morrison stood in the shipyard orbiting Mars looking at the vessel under construction. The new ship was called the Resilience, and it combined human engineering with technology shared by the Free Worlds Coalition. It was bigger and more powerful than the old Valiant, but Jake felt a pang of sadness. The Valiant had been his home for 5 years and she had given her life protecting Earth. She's beautiful, isn't she? Amy Walsh said, coming to stand beside him. She wore a commander's insignia now, promoted after the battle. When will she be ready? Another month, they say. Then we start crew trials. Jake smiled slightly. It's strange. 3 months ago, we were fighting for our lives. Now we're building ships with alien technology. The universe moves fast, Amy agreed. Have you heard about the new space station project? Jake nodded. The Crossroads. A joint station where humans, coalition species, and even some council members can meet and work together. Part of the peace agreement. Do you think it will work? Can we really trust the council after what they did? Jake considered the question carefully. I think some council members genuinely want peace, like Councilor Mirasol, but others are just waiting for a chance to attack us again. We have to stay ready. On Earth, President Mitchell was dealing with the complicated aftermath of the war. 2 million people had died and their families wanted answers. Why had the government chosen to fight instead of surrendering? Could those lives have been saved? Mitchell understood their anger, but she also knew the truth. Surrender would have meant slavery for billions. The people who died had bought freedom for everyone else. That didn't make their deaths less tragic, but it gave them meaning. She was also dealing with diplomatic challenges. The Free Worlds Coalition had offered humanity membership, and most people wanted to accept. But some worried it would make the Council their permanent enemy. There were protests in major cities, people holding signs saying, "Peace, not alliance," and "We survived alone." Ambassador Marcus White advised her to take the coalition membership. We need friends out there, Madam President. The 50-year provisional period will pass quickly. When it ends, the Council might decide to attack us again. If we're part of the coalition, that becomes much harder for them. In space stations and moon bases across human territory, scientists were working with alien researchers for the first time. Dr. Peter Collins and Dr. Nicole Sanders were collaborating with a Lyrian physicist named Kara on a project involving faster-than-light communication. The potential breakthrough could revolutionize space travel. Your math is interesting, Kara said, her blue fingers dancing across a holographic display. Humans approach quantum theory differently than we do. More chaotic, but sometimes that chaos finds solutions we miss. We're good at thinking outside the box, Nicole said with a smile. Comes from being the new kids in the galaxy. We haven't learned all the rules about what's supposed to be impossible yet. The collaboration was producing results faster than anyone expected. Within 2 months, they had a working prototype of a quantum communicator that could send messages across light years instantly. The military applications were obvious, but so were the peaceful ones. Human colonies could stay in real-time contact with Earth. Not everyone was happy about the changes. On Earth, a political movement called Humanity First was gaining support. They argued that humans should reject all alien contact, and focus on building their own strength. Their leader, a charismatic speaker named Patrick Stone, gave passionate speeches about human independence. "We fought to be free," Stone told crowds of thousands. "But now we're inviting these aliens into our space, onto our worlds. They share technology with us, yes, but what do they get in return? Access to our resources? Knowledge of our capabilities? We're trading one form of dependence for another." President Mitchell watched these speeches with concern but didn't try to stop them. Freedom meant people could disagree with her. Besides, Stone raised some valid questions. Humanity did need to be careful about becoming too dependent on alien help. Meanwhile, the Council was having its own internal struggles. The defeat at Earth had embarrassed them badly. Some Council members wanted to send a much larger fleet to finish what they started. Others argued for a new approach. Councillor Mirasol led the reform faction. "We've ruled through fear for too long," she told the Council Assembly. "The humans proved that fear alone isn't enough. We need to offer species a reason to join us willingly, not just threaten them until they submit." "That sounds like weakness," High Chancellor Zorvex growled. He was ancient, over 2,000 years old, and he had seen the Council crush countless rebellions. "If we show mercy to the humans, every species will think they can defy us." "They already think that," Mirasol replied. 3 more species have refused tribute payments since the Battle of Earth. 2 more have requested to join the Free Worlds Coalition. Our empire is cracking, and using more force will only make it crack faster. The debate raged across council chambers. Meanwhile, preparations continued for the Crossroads Station. The project was symbolic as much as practical. By working together on something constructive, the 3 sides hoped to build trust. Jake Morrison was appointed to oversee the human side of the project. It was a huge responsibility, and he felt unprepared. "I'm a ship captain," he told Admiral Hughes. "I don't know anything about diplomacy or construction management." "You know about leadership and making hard decisions," Hughes replied. "That's what we need. Besides, you fought in the battle. Everyone respects that. You're a symbol of human courage." Jake accepted the assignment and traveled to the construction site. Working with alien engineers was challenging. They had different ideas about everything from hull design to safety protocols. Arguments were frequent, but slowly progress happened. A Vorton engineer named Krell, whose body was made of living crystal, showed Jake a more efficient way to route power systems. Jake suggested a modular design that would let the station expand over time. A council architect grudgingly admitted that human aesthetic choices actually looked good. "You know what surprises me?" Krell said one day, his voice ringing like wind chimes. "I expected humans to be aggressive and uncooperative. You fought so fiercely after all. But you're actually quite pleasant to work with," Jake laughed. "We're only aggressive when someone tries to kill us. Otherwise, we're pretty friendly." "Perhaps that's the difference between you and the council," Krell said thoughtfully. "They assumed that because you were primitive, you would be easy to dominate. They forgot that primitive doesn't mean weak." Back on Earth, President Mitchell made her decision about the Free Worlds Coalition. In a speech broadcast across all human space, she announced that humanity would formally join. "We stand with those who believe in freedom and mutual respect," she declared. "Together, we will build a better future." The reaction was mixed. Most people celebrated. The Humanity First movement protested loudly. But the decision was made. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. 2 weeks later, something unexpected happened. A small council ship arrived at Earth, carrying Councillor Mirasol. She requested a private meeting with President Mitchell. In a secure room deep in the government complex, the 2 leaders sat across from each other. Mirasol's translucent form seemed to glow softly in the dim light. "I come with an unofficial message," Mirasol said. "There are others in the council who think as I do. We believe the old ways are dying. The question is what will replace them. What do you want from us?" Mitchell asked. "Patience," Mirasol replied, "and perhaps eventually partnership. The council will change, but change takes time. If humanity and the coalition push too hard, the conservative faction will push back with force. But if you give us time, we can reform from within." Mitchell studied the alien carefully. "Why are you telling me this? Aren't you betraying your own government?" "I'm trying to save it," Mirasol said. "The council has done good things. We brought stability to a chaotic galaxy. We preserved knowledge through dark ages, but we've also become tyrants. I want to preserve the good while eliminating the bad. I need allies to do that, even if those allies are officially our enemies. It was a lot to process. Mitchell thanked Mirasol for her honesty and promised to consider her words. After the alien left, Mitchell sat alone for a long time thinking. The galaxy was changing. Old certainties were crumbling. New alliances were forming. Humanity had gone from barely surviving to playing a role in galactic politics. It was thrilling and terrifying at the same time. Outside her window, the sun was setting over the mountains. Somewhere up there, beyond the blue sky, human ships patrolled alongside coalition vessels. The Crossroads station was taking shape. Scientists from a dozen species were working on projects that could benefit everyone. Maybe, just maybe, something good could come from all the death and destruction. Maybe the price humanity paid had bought more than just survival. Maybe they had bought a chance to change the galaxy itself. 6 months had passed since the battle that changed everything. The Crossroads station was finally complete, hanging in space like a symbol of impossible cooperation. Ships from 3 different factions docked at its ports: human vessels, Free World's coalition craft, and even a few Council exploratory ships. Jake Morrison walked through the station's main corridor, amazed at how normal it all seemed now. Humans passed by aliens of a dozen species, everyone going about their business. A few months ago, they had been shooting at each other. Now they were working together, even if it was still awkward sometimes. His family had come up from Mars for the grand opening ceremony. His wife Emma held their daughter Sophie's hand while their son Danny ran ahead, excited by everything. Sophie stared wide-eyed at a tall, insect-like being from a species called the Chitara. The alien noticed her staring and waved a friendly claw. Sophie waved back, smiling. "It's like a dream," Emma said softly to Jake. 6 months ago, we thought we might die. Now our kids are waving at friendly aliens. "Sometimes nightmares turn into dreams," Jake replied, "if you survive the scary part first." The dedication ceremony was held in the station's largest assembly hall. President Karen Mitchell gave the opening speech. She looked healthier than she had during the war, less gray and tired, though the weight of leadership still showed in her eyes. "We gather here not as enemies, but as neighbors," Mitchell said. "We come from different worlds, different cultures, different histories. But we share this galaxy. We share the responsibility to make it a place where all can thrive." Ambassador Lyra spoke next, representing the Free World's coalition. Her blue skin seemed to shimmer under the lights. "The old empire claimed that peace required dominance. We are here to prove them wrong. Peace requires respect, understanding, and the courage to see others as equals." Even a council representative spoke, though notably it was Councillor Mirasol rather than anyone from the military. "The council acknowledges that change is necessary. The methods of the past must evolve. This station represents a first step toward a new kind of galactic community." Not everyone was happy. High Adjudicator Vexnor had been quietly removed from his position after his failure at Earth. Conservative council members still argued for a return to the old ways of forced submission. On Earth, the Humanity First movement continued protesting alien contact. But in that moment, with species from across the galaxy gathered peacefully, the protesters seemed far away. This was what was possible when people chose cooperation over conquest. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Jake found himself talking to a Vortan engineer named Krell, the same one he had worked with during construction. "I never thought I would call a human friend," Krell said, his crystal body refracting the room's light into rainbows. "But here we are." "Here we are," Jake agreed, raising his glass. They were drinking something that was safe for both species, a compromise beverage developed specifically for the station. Dr. Nicole Sanders was across the room, excitedly discussing her latest research with a group of alien scientists. The quantum communication project had been a huge success. Now they were working on even more ambitious goals, possibly even faster than light travel without using the dangerous and unstable wormhole technology currently available. "The key is understanding that space-time is more flexible than we thought," Nicole was explaining. "If we can manipulate the quantum field in just the right way, we might be able to slip between dimensions. Of course, the energy requirements are enormous, but that's an engineering problem, not a physics problem." A Lyrian scientist named Vorn listened intently. "Your species has only been studying advanced physics for a few decades. but your insights are remarkable. You approach problems from angles we never considered. Maybe that's our advantage, Nicole said with a grin. We're too new to know what's supposed to be impossible. Across the station, in a quiet observation deck, President Mitchell stood alone looking out at Earth. The planet hung in the viewport, blue and beautiful. Scarred by war but healing. Home to 8 billion people who had almost lost everything. It's beautiful, isn't it? A voice said behind her. Mitchell turned to see Counselor Mirasol approaching. The alien moved like flowing water, graceful and strange. It is, Mitchell agreed, though I wonder sometimes if we did the right thing. 2 million people died because I chose to fight instead of surrendering. Sometimes I think about their families, their children who grew up without parents. And if you had surrendered? Mirasol asked gently. How many would have died slowly under council rule? How many dreams would have been crushed? How many children would have grown up as slaves? She paused. You made a terrible choice. But it was the right terrible choice. Mitchell nodded slowly. I hope history agrees with you. History already is, Mirasol said. Do you know how many species have requested to join the Free Worlds Coalition since your battle? 17. Do you know how many have demanded renegotiation of their council tributary agreements? 42. You started something much bigger than just one battle. Is that good or bad for the galaxy? It's change, Mirasol replied. Change is always chaotic. But the alternative was stagnation and tyranny. I would rather have chaos that leads to freedom than order that requires slavery. Mitchell smiled slightly. For a council member, you sound a lot like a rebel. I'm trying to be both, Mirasol said seriously. Someone has to build bridges between the old and the new. It's not a comfortable position, but it's necessary. Meanwhile, Jake's son Danny had made friends with a young Lyrian girl named Sarah. They were playing some kind of game that seemed to involve running and laughing. Universal childhood behaviors that crossed species lines. Sophie joined them, and soon a small Chitara child did too. The parents of all four watched nervously but didn't interfere. Emma came to stand beside Jake. Look at them, she said softly. They don't see enemies. They just see other kids to play with. That's the future right there, Jake said. If we don't mess it up for them. Then we better not mess it up, Emma said firmly. The reception continued for hours. People ate, talked, and even danced, though getting different species to dance together was complicated. A human musician had brought a guitar and played songs that most aliens found strange but interesting. A Vortan offered to create harmonic tones with their crystal body, and the resulting music was unlike anything anyone had heard before. As the party wound down, Admiral Frank Hughes pulled Jake aside. I wanted to tell you personally. You're being promoted to Admiral and put in charge of Joint Defense Coordination. You'll be working with Coalition forces and yes, even some Council liaisons on mutual defense projects. Jake absorbed this news. That's a big responsibility. You've earned it. You kept your head during the battle. You worked well with the aliens during construction. You understand both sides. That's what we need now, people who can bridge the gap. Jake accepted the promotion, though he felt the weight of it. He was just a cargo pilot once, hauling supplies to asteroid miners. Now he was an admiral responsible for galactic defense. Life moved fast when civilizations collided. Far away on the Council capital world, a very different meeting was taking place. The 7 ruling species gathered in their private chamber, away from public scrutiny. High Chancellor Zorvex, the oldest and most powerful, spoke with the weight of 2,000 years. The humans have changed the galaxy, he said heavily. We can fight this change and watch our empire crumble slowly. Or we can adapt. I propose we begin genuine reforms. Open council membership to younger species. Reduce tribute demands. Invest in cooperation rather than coercion. The other council members stared in shock. Zorvex was the most conservative among them. If even he was calling for reform, things had truly changed. The vote was close, but it passed. The council would begin to transform itself. It would take decades, maybe centuries. There would be resistance and setbacks, but the process had begun. Back at the crossroads station, the party finally ended. People returned to their ships or their quarters, tired but happy. Jake took his family to the observation deck one last time before heading home to Mars. Tell me a story, Dad, Sophie asked, climbing into his lap. Tell me about the battle. Jake thought about all the death and destruction he had seen. About friends who didn't come home. About the terrible moment when he thought Earth itself would burn. Then he looked at his daughter's innocent face and decided what to say. Once upon a time, he began, there were people who wanted to be free. They were small and weak compared to their enemies, but they were brave. When the big, strong empire said they had to surrender, they said no. They fought not because they thought they could win, but because some things are worth fighting for. Did they win? Sophie asked. They survived, Jake said. And sometimes survival is the same as winning. They survived and built something new, something better. They made friends with other brave people, and together they started to change the galaxy. Is that a true story? Danny asked. It's our story, Emma said, putting her arm around Jake's shoulder. It's still being written. Through the viewport, Earth glowed softly in the darkness. Around it, ships from a dozen species moved in peaceful coordination. The crossroads station itself represented something impossible, just 6.